Dzień dobry, witajcie w tych ciężkich czasach. Może to jest dobry moment, żebym się z wami pożegnał, bo nie wiadomo, co przyszłość przyniesie. Wszystko może się zdarzyć. Jak teraz codziennie widzimy, internet pełen jest fachowców i specjalistów od strategii wojennych i politycznych, więc ja tutaj nie będę moich 5 groszy nikomu niepotrzebnych tutaj wcinał. Chcę wam tylko powiedzieć, że po prostu jest mi cholernie żal zarówno Ukraińców, jak i tych biednych żołnierzy rosyjskich. Cała ludzkość, wszyscy zwyczajni obywatele, jesteśmy rozgrywani jak dzieci na wszystkich poziomach. Serce mi pęka, gdy patrzę na ten cały świat. Jak chcecie, to napiszcie, co o tym wszystkim sądzicie w komentarzach. Mam tu dla was w tym filmiku troszeczkę treści. Spojrzymy na artykuły internetowe, posłuchamy jednego pana z amerykańskiego uniwersytetu, no a na koniec smutna piosenka. Obawiam się, że po tym filmie także i ja zostanę uznany za putinowskiego agenta, ale może nie będzie tak źle. No i tyle, moi drodzy, to chciałem powiedzieć w skrócie. Resztę, jeżeli macie jakieś przemyślenia, to piszcie w komentarzach. A tymczasem niech Bóg, programista, kimkolwiek on jest, niech się zlituje nad Ukraińcami, nad Rosjanami, nad nami Polakami i nad całym tym nieszczęśliwym światem. Jak chcecie, to piszcie, co wam na sercach leży, a ja pozdrawiam serdecznie i życzę wam świetlanej przyszłości. Dziękuję bardzo.
And what's happened with American media, much to my regret, is that what used to be independent, CNN belonged to Ted Turner, and he ran it. CBS was created by William Paley, and he ran it. But gradually, many of these very important sources were bought by larger companies. CNN, he sold it to NBC, NBC was bought by AOL, ABC by Disney, and so these very important media organizations became part of huge conglomerates, and information was then made very different. The attitude towards what media is supposed to do changed dramatically. I asked a group of people, I paid for it actually, to try to find in the New York Times, over the past 3 years, 2015, 16, 17, any positive article about Russia. One positive article. Didn't find any. Not one. Now I say to myself, if that isn't censorship, then what is it? So that, I believe, is something we should all understand. And finally, as someone who works in media, I would like to say that Russian media, mainstream, I mean mainstream media, paints America black. Russian media, mainstream media, controlled directly or indirectly by the government, shows an extremely negative picture of the United States, U.S. policy, and so on. And much to my surprise, mainstream American media does exactly the same thing vis-a-vis Russia, which to me is amazing because this is supposed to be a free media, as differing from the Russian one. As someone who works in Russian media, I can say it's hard to call it a free media. So there we are. I think people who call themselves journalists, in my book, they're not journalists. But those people have played and are playing a destructive role in creating the fear, the dislike, the distrust that the people in both countries have vis-a-vis each other. And the fact that we don't seem to question our media is really quite interesting. But there it is, nonetheless. We just take it. So I'd like to wind up with a quote from a gentleman, no, I hesitate to use the word gentleman, from a man whose name was Hermann Goering. You all know who he was? There may be some people who are too young to know. Well, he was Hitler's right-hand man, and he commanded the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force. And he was, of course, at Nuremberg. He was judged, sentenced to death, to hang. But he managed to get some poison, probably from the Soviets, of course, since they poison people, as we know, so as not to be hanged. But he was interviewed by an American journalist shortly before he committed suicide. And here's what he said. And I think this is something that we should all remember. Naturally, the common people don't want war, neither in Russia, nor in England, nor for that matter in Germany. That is understood. But after all, it is the leaders of the country who determine the policy, and it is always a simple matter to drag the people along, whether it is a democracy, or a fascist dictatorship, or a parliament, or a communist dictatorship. Voice or no voice, the people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. That is easy. All you have to do is tell them they are being attacked and denounce the peacemakers for a lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger. It works the same in any country, said Mr. Goering. And I think he was absolutely right. And we are being led by our media, by our politicians, in that direction, in both countries.
How do we stop that? How do we stop people from killing each other in situations like that? Because, you know, they can meet up in Minsk. They can do whatever, you know, they can make agreements, they can disagree. You know better than me about, you know, money interest and kleptocracy that is so omnipresent in Russia and Ukraine and everywhere. But how do we stop that? How do we stop? How can United States and Germany and Russia get together and stop brothers from killing brothers?
Well, you know,